so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come. I know you guys are super busy, especially right now with everything going on.
Our pleasure. Happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't believe I realized we've known each other for over a year and a half already. I don't know where the time went. But I remember when I met you guys, it was at that hotel in Westlake
Yep.
Village. And I just knew you guys were so awesome. I'm like, these are people I want in my life forever. And I just feel really blessed to have you guys in my life. And I thought to have you guys on because I just love your story. And I just thought people should hear it of like how you guys met and your whole marriage and when you guys got married and just your life that you have today. So I thought it would be inspiring to people that that have these dreams and want to have businesses and they have their goals, but then also want a successful marriage. So I thought it would be cool to have you guys on to like kind of share your story. So yeah, if you guys want to talk a little bit about where you came from, like Leigh, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia, but I traveled a lot after college and ended up out here when I was 26, and now I'm home. And I've just been here this whole time.
Just over 26.
Exactly.
Over 26.
Yeah, and kind of just fell into the entertainment industry, and I, met my husband here 17 years ago. So now we're kind of just, I don't want to say stuck in LA because we love it, but I don't know that I ever thought I'd be living here this long, but I do love it. So
you want to share what you did in entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, I feel like I've had like 10 careers within a career, but She
started as a janitor and worked her way all the way up.
Exactly. Well, I basically did because I started as a PA.
Yep.
Where you are sort of like a janitor. But I worked on a bunch of television shows, and then I went and published on some big films like in the late 1900s. And then I actually started working as like a talent producer, meaning like I book celebrities for things. I also hosted a show for Lowe's Theaters that was like the best job ever. Where I just talked about what movies were coming out and stuff. And then I spent the last 10 years at Access Hollywood as a producer. And sometimes they used me on air for like sporting events. Like I covered all the Super Bowls while I was there, which was amazing. And so I've gone from like interviewing Tom Brady to now picking up dog poop with him all day. It's great.
Honestly, it's really not that different.
Which leads us to Arron.
Yes.
So, yes.
I too grew up in Southern Virginia, although we didn't know each other at the time. I'll get to that funny story later.
Yeah.
But I bounced around a lot and then moved to California about 18 years ago. Moved up to LA, and the first job I had, the first week I was here, was just basically a grunt on a production job as a logger. And walked in, saw her, started a little office flirtation, found out we were literally from the same small town in Southern Virginia.
We had the same dentist and everything.
Same dentist. Our dads were in med school at the same time. The kicker is she is slightly older than me, a decade. And it turns out that we literally were in the same school system. When I was in elementary school, she was in high school literally across the street. My babysitter when I was in third grade was on her cheerleading team. So there were lots of just weird similarities. We ended up just really hitting it off. But I didn't have a career when we met. She was the breadwinner. She had been here and established for 10 years. I was literally basically the equivalent of an errand runner. But I hated the idea of working in a restaurant and waiting tables, which is what everybody who comes to LA does when they're figuring out what they do. So I found a woman who had a dog walking business, worked for her for a couple days a week, and eventually bought the business from her. And I had to borrow money from my in-laws, which was pretty embarrassing, saying, I need to borrow money to buy a dog walking business. I felt like I was starting a paper route and needed like $100 to buy a bike.
Yeah, because I had to say to my parents at 35 years old, my new husband needs some money for a dog walking business. I'm like,
a little humbling. And but I had a vision of what I thought it was going to be, and my vision turned out to be it turned out to be bigger than my vision. I thought it was going to be something I'd do on the side, go back to grad school, but it kept just growing and growing. I ended up getting licensed to be a trainer. So now I'm a dog walker, boarder, trainer, daycare runner, and it's kind of exploded. And who knew? It's just the right place, the right time, and found the right people, and it's worked out really well.
And then Leigh, you kind of retired from entertainment, and now you guys are working together full time.
Yeah, I left Access Hollywood last year, pre-COVID, not really, understanding what was about to happen.
Not sure she would have left if we knew COVID was coming, but.
Yeah, so I'm still able to, when this is all over, hopefully freelance. I freelanced last year for the Emmys and stuff. After I left. So yeah, I could go back to work, but I have been helping him. We work together, which I know some people think is crazy. And there are a few times where we want to kill each other. But overall, I'd say 80% of the time it works out really, really well.
It does.
It works well too because he's out doing the walks and doing these training sessions all day. And I'm here literally doing daycare. And, someone comes out back every 20 minutes to drop their dog off or pick their dog up or whatever. So we're not
we're not sharing an office
exactly
and in each other's space all the time, which is good.
Yeah.
You guys
we can't even share a bed, so we can't share an office.
True.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, because you guys sleep in separate rooms, right?
You do.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm not the world's best sleeper, and I never have been. And I think when we first met, and we were living in a shoebox condo in Santa Monica and didn't have the space to have a second bedroom. There were a lot of fights because I would keep her awake all the time because I thrash. The bed after I sleep in it looks like a tornado hit. Yeah. Pillows are on the floor. It's just legs akimbo. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So the second we moved into a place with 2 bedrooms, that was it.
I was like,
so
hi.
We have literally probably in 13 years, maybe only slept in the same bed 10 times.
Yeah. Even when we go on vacation, we sleep in separate rooms.
When we go on vacation, we book a room that has a suite that has 2 separate bedrooms, and that's it. So we'll hang out till it's nighttime, and then bye.
But maybe that's the secret to a happy marriage.
Maybe.
That works well for us.
We definitely both feel better in the morning having gotten our own whatever sleep we get.
Yeah, maybe it is. So you guys had only known each other, from what I remember, a very short time before you got married and kind of lied about it, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, we to this day, some people still don't know, but we did get married almost right after we met. But we had a big wedding in a traditional wedding in Malibu, and then we went home to my parents in Virginia and had the backyard. My dad always sort of wanted us.
We sort of had 3 weddings, basically, is what we're saying.
We did.
We decided to do it redneck style and just keep having weddings so people would give us gifts.
Totally. But no, you're right. We knew after 6 weeks that we were getting married. It's crazy.
You guys do. So what was it about? Because I know, I know a lot of people struggle, especially in LA, to find love, and sometimes you think it might be it, and it's not. So how did you guys just know after 6 weeks?
It's a great question because I sound awful, but my last boyfriend had also been younger, and I had just gone through a really bad breakup.
She likes children. She likes child brides, basically.
Don't say that. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have a crush on this guy. I can't even tell my parents that he's 10 years younger. This is a nightmare. And then we went to dinner with the first week we met, went to dinner with a couple, my best friends, and they were like, oh my God, we love him. And he just always seemed older really than he is. He had a maturity level to him. And I think that having all those strange things in common that we did from our childhood made us bypass some of the traditional dating things that you have to do, like explaining where you're from or where I'm from. We do that, we could just kind of bypass all that stuff, so that may have helped too. But I think so much of all that stuff is in the beginning really is just a lot of physical chemical attraction. We certainly had that, we still have that, but it's also he was smart, and we all know, it's kind of hard to meet just a normal smart guy. And actually one of the first things he said to me that was such a turn on to me was, I have no interest in being famous. I don't, because at the time he was like doing the occasional modeling gig. And when he told me he wanted to walk dogs, I was like, oh my God, we're never going to have any money. This is a nightmare. And he said, I have no interest in ever like being a part of the business. And, you know, living in LA, that's a big, I was like, oh, this guy is like legit. He's sincere. He's,
I've dated people before Arron in the industry. So
yeah.
You didn't want that anymore.
Yes. I was so done with that.
You dated people before we met?
Yes.
Or you're bringing out a lot of stuff I did not know. This is really uncomfortable.
Big fight later.
I think for me, it was a little bit of what Leigh said, the familiarity of being from the same area. I also was literally fresh off the boat, which you always say.
That's true.
I mean, I lived in LA for maybe a calendar week before we met.
And he walked in and I
was like, I didn't have a lot of chance to date a lot of crazies. And I was kind of always an old soul. Like I wasn't looking to date. I did enough in college. It was, you know, fine for when it lasted. But when I got to LA and met her, it just honestly just clicked, for lack of a better, more descriptive word. It just felt familiar, and and there definitely was like a very animalistic attraction. I don't know if this is a PG show, but you know, we were very attracted to each other. We had a lot of similar just sentiments about life in general and what we wanted to do. We both have a huge travel bug, so that was really appealing, that she'd already done a lot of traveling, but also was really adventurous and liked to continue to explore new places, which is big for me. It just felt easy. Felt good.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So it just felt easy and natural from day one, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel. I feel like when it's meant to be, and not that, I mean, I'm not married, but I feel like from what I've heard from couples like you guys is that when it's kind of meant to be, it's just easy. Like it's not so difficult. Because I hear people all the time like, you know, this relationship is going great, but this and this. But you guys never really had any, you know, buts. Like it just kind of.
Well, I think what I would say to that, and Leigh can differ from this if she wants, but it's not that there aren't those buts, but the rest of it is so worth figuring it out. Mm-hmm. That it's not a difference maker in a negative sense. Like the age difference was challenging. I mean, I was 23 when we met. She was 32, and that's all. Obviously, that's a huge difference. And even though I'm an old soul, she's experienced a lot more in life at that point than I had. And she'd been a working woman for 10 years. I was fresh out of college. There's just things that I can't relate to. You know, I was more jealous at that age than I am now, and more insecure. I didn't have a career. There were a lot of things that I had to grow into, but I think all the positives about what we had going, what we liked about each other, was easily outweighed any of the stuff that we felt like was a speed bump or challenging. We just worked through it. And it wasn't to say there weren't big discussions and sometimes arguments, but and I will say I never really felt like, ooh, this is kind of a game changer. Like this, I don't think we can work this out. Like it was always like, all right, This sucks. This is kind of a hiccup. We got to kind of work through this. But I never, ever once went to bed thinking, I don't know how we're going to get through this. It was like, all right, figure it out. This sort of sucks, but.
I think the key to it too is that this is just part of being with me, and he's had to kind of learn this, and he's gotten better too. It's just transparency. Like, I grew up in a house of screamers, so I'm used to, like, you know, you have a fight with someone, you get it all out, and you're not holding anything in 30 minutes later. And I've really applied that to our marriage, and he did not grow up in a house like that, so he kind of had to learn, like, okay.
I grew up in a house where if you got in a fight, then no one spoke for a week, and it was all secrets, and it was miserable. You want to just run away for a month.
Yeah. But. And we, to a fault, like, tell each other everything, even if it hurts each other's feelings. Like, we'll say, you know what, you did this. It was ugly. I hated it, you know, and then you talk through it and get through it. And I think that's a really big key to staying in a good marriage, too.
I agree. Yeah. I feel like that's a huge thing. I've been in relationships where the fights are very toxic. It's like something that should just be a conversation, but it can't just be a conversation. Somebody just wants to yell and brings out the, you know, either they bring out the worst in you or vice versa. and somehow it's just very toxic and you can't have a discussion. And then I've been in relationships where you bring something up and it's a conversation and then you work through it and you get over it. So I feel like there is a good and bad way to fight with somebody or argue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys are do it in a healthy way, which is great. Just like get it out, figure it out, get over it. That's how I am. I don't like to hold things in. I can't. Like, you could tell if something's wrong with me right away, if something's bothering me. So I am that way. I just like to talk it out. This is bothering me. What can we do to fix it? Let's just fix it and move on.
Yep.
But it's hard to find sometimes people that are your guys. I don't, and in my experience in LA, it's hard to find guys that are okay with just talking it out and not making it like a blowout fight, you know? So that's like
my gender is not necessarily always known as great talkers in the healthy sense.
yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, comes from, I don't know, just sort of gender stereotypes, which hopefully are maybe shifting nowadays. But, you know, men are supposed to not be emotional, and we're supposed to, you know, be really rigid. I mean, I didn't grow up with, again, a family that like talked through problems. There was just a big eruption, and then my dad would move out for a month, or, you know, no one would speak to anybody for weeks on end. So I just wasn't around that, but I did decide very early on that's not what I wanted for myself. And Leigh was great at sort of helping navigate with me, figure out like, all right, look, this is how a normal couple communicates when one's upset or one's mad or one's jealous or one's whatever. We don't just fester it and disappear and let it come back up, you know, 6 years down the road because you didn't deal with it. You just deal with it and you move on.
Right. No, I love that. I love that. Yeah, my boyfriend now is really good about doing that. Like, I feel like I'm in a new relationship, a couple months in.
I know, it's awesome.
So exciting.
So
we do have to approve of him at some point. You know, that's how it works.
I know. I cannot believe you guys haven't met him yet. Yes. So far, I mean, we've met each other's families and
Right.
everyone gets along so far. Everything is good. My little niece, who's 2, when she FaceTimes me now, she goes, where's Nate? And I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
here. She's like, oh. And then she just walks away. Like, she doesn't care about me
Little
anymore.
dude.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a draw.
Exactly.
That's so cute.
So yeah, everything's good, and he also just is a really great communicator. So I feel like that's definitely the key to a
Yeah.
healthy relationship is just communication. So what would you guys say to all the single people in LA that are trying to find love here with all the entertainment people and all the, you know, like, how do you
I'd say get the hell out.
I get out of that
So
way.
the thing you always say, and you always quote somebody who says it, maybe it was Michelle Obama, said, you better damn well like the person you end up with, because
Yeah.
eventually
It's a Michelle Obama quote that I love. She said one time when she was asked about her husband, she was like, looks are great, money is fine, but you better damn well like the person at the end of the day. And I that just sums everything up. Like, it's so, yeah, great to have a great looking guy or girl, great to meet someone with a ton of money. But at the end of the day, those things, while they're nice things, they don't really matter. Like, you really just have to like the person's company. And I love that quote because it just sums everything up. I mean, I think you have to just.
Yeah, if you look at everything else as a bonus, but if you just genuinely like the person, you like spending time with them, whether that means, like, the honeymoon period wears off, as much as we all want to say 17 years in. No, it's just like the week we met. Well,
No.
Of course not. That doesn't make any sense. But I still genuinely would prefer to be around her than not be around her. I'd prefer to go on vacation with her than anybody else, but I'd also prefer to be COVID trapped in my house with her than anybody else. So that stuff, all the extra superfluous stuff is great. It's a bonus. It's icing on the cupcake. But if you don't genuinely just really like the company of the other person, probably not going to last super long.
Yeah.
And we've had friends who, just before I forget, in LA who've met their some of them even got married, but their boyfriends or girlfriends or spouses, like really organically. Like we have a friend who met her husband at the airport, like waiting for a flight. We have someone who met at the grocery store. Like I'm still a big believer, like that stuff happens. Like everything doesn't have to be online. Like I still think there are moments in life where you can meet someone like standing in line, or anyone I ever dated in LA, I always met at work. Met you at work. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I feel like if you just kind of keep your eyes open here, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the traditional, LA vapid dating scene. It can be meaningful.
Yeah, I agree. I've never been one for those dating sites because, first of all, I just never thought that would be a cool story to tell. Like, I tell I mean, I know it works for a lot of people, which is great. They find love. But personally, I never wanted to say, oh, I met your dad or your grandpa on a dating site. Like, I just didn't think, and I feel like that's forcing something that I'm trying to like play God. I feel like in that sense, like maybe it's not my time. Maybe I'm meant to do other things before I get married. Maybe I'm meant to meet somebody else. Like, so I just have always been against that personally and wanted the story of I met someone at a grocery store or at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And so oddly enough, it's so funny. I actually met my boyfriend now on Instagram, which is not a dating site. It's still online, but it's cute. I mean, like he is not even in LA. He's from Fresno. And so he saw me on, like, somehow I came up on a search page and he liked a couple of pictures. So then I looked at him like, who's this like UI stuff? And we just got to talking and he's like, I'm actually going to be in LA for my birthday this weekend. And I'm like, oh, well, if you need someone to show you around or take you on a hike or something, let me know. And so I ended up taking his friends and him on a hike. And
did you wear masks on your first date? I have to ask.
Yeah, is it awkward?
You know what's I am scared to say because people are going to judge, but we did not because we were hiking. And it was,
all right, I can live with that.
You're outside.
That's summer. It was hot, and so when we met, we were walking. I parked off of PCH and he parked a little further down, and so he's like, oh, I see you, turn around. And so we're walking towards each other and I'm like, here we go, like, first time meeting. And I'm like, he doesn't have a mask on. Okay, I had like my mask in my hand and I'm like, I'm gonna put that away. And it was so awkward. And then I'm like walking towards him and I'm like, wait, are we gonna hug? Are we gonna do this with COVID? Like and I had been by myself for like 2 months straight, hadn't seen a soul.
Well, you were entertaining all of us.
So, yeah, with my TikToks.
I love it.
So I'm walking towards him, and as we're getting closer, I'm like, are we hugging?
Oh my God.
Are we doing this? And he's like, sure, why not? Like, I had to clear
that is so funny. Like, you never thought you'd be on a date like that. Like, it's so bizarre right now.
See, that's already a good story. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
The first date with this guy, I had to ask if
because it was during a pandemic. I mean, that's a great story.
Yeah.
I guess it is. It's like the pandemic dating story.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And so our first date went really great. And, there was only a couple places to eat because everything that we had to eat at, for lunch after our hike had to be an outdoor patio. So I found this place in Malibu and it was on the beach, and the wait, because it was the only restaurant really that you could eat at the time in the area, it was like an hour and a half wait. But that turned out to be really cool because his friends were there. His friends gave us our space and we were waiting on the beach, like in the sand, and having like this deep conversation. And we had an hour and a half wait to just talk and get to know each other. And so by lunch, we're sitting there and he's like putting his arm around me and I'm like, oh my God, like this doesn't feel like a first date. Like
listen, in a pandemic, you got to fast forward a lot of stuff.
Right. Well, and we were.
And he doesn't live here.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't live here. We were on FaceTime for so long, before we met, and even like in between, we see each other every week to 2 weeks, and so it's given us time to actually get to know each other, which I think is actually a plus with this pandemic. Is that I have dated, like even before him, I dated on FaceTime only. a few guys in this, and you could tell right away within a couple of days if that's somebody you want to date or not. You really get to know somebody just without the physical stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
We've been married so long, like we don't even
We should
know
try
these stories.
Right.
Oh my God.
Just to see. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're so happy for you that you're so happy right now. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
He's lucky.
It's still early. But I have to say, like, everything is really good right now. We're both really happy. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we just have to get them to LA, which might be a struggle. I'm not going to Fresno, so
who wants to stay in Fresno, especially in this heat?
I know, right? So now you guys are working together, and I want to talk about your love for dogs, because you guys, I've never seen two people more passionate about dogs and animals. So where did that come from? Because I know, Arron, you were saying that you started out as a dog walker. I don't know if you had that passion for dogs at that time. And then Leigh, did you already have that, or did you guys kind of eventually just get there together, or where did that come from?
I definitely have always been a pretty devoted animal lover. And when I grew up in the town that we grew up in, I grew up on a farm, and we always had a weird family with like 12 cats and 7 dogs and some horses. I certainly never thought it was going to be a career thing. When I moved to LA, again, it was just a little side thing to make money and do something. And then I think Leigh can speak for herself, but if you had told her when we met she was going to have, I mean, she liked animals.
Full of dirty dogs.
But yeah, if you told her she was going to be sleeping in a bed that had like 12 dogs in it on any given time, I think she would have said you were nuts.
Yeah.
But I mean, she can tell you her passion for dogs has exploded.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's now the girl that when we're driving, if she sees a homeless guy with a dog, she's pulling over and giving the dog treats and telling the guy, here's money, but you can only use it on dog food. Like, you can't use it for anything for you. So her passion has really exploded with this, and it's been actually really fun to see.
It's been nice too. This sounds really cheesy, but Arron's love of animals sort of taught me, because we talk about me being older and he felt like he didn't have as much to bring to the relationship, but a huge thing that he brought is like his love for animals, like translates to so many other things. Like it just kind of opened my world up to, if you love animals this much, you're probably going to be passionate about other things. And that really helped me sort of like be okay with living with them and having it, be our full-time business. And then right after we met, we got Bronco, who is right here, who is always
very upset that he's not
here.
On camera.
Yeah, he's been on, been on the floor here the whole time, but we've had him for, oh my gosh, 13 years. 13. And I'm so in love with him. There are no words.
He's actually joined us on some of your training sessions, if you recall.
I love Bronco.
Yeah. So anyway, but I did grow up loving dogs, but not like Arron did. But Bronco really opened my eyes to like how I had no idea I could love an animal or love creatures as much as I do. And I mean, he's my favorite thing on earth.
And that includes me. I am so far lower on the totem pole than this guy. Yeah. But the other kind of added bonus that I think probably surprised Leigh is that some of the really unique places that I've gone to around the world and gotten to take her are because of I was going to work with exotic animals. Like I went to Namibia and worked with lions and leopards and cheetahs and baboons in the wild. And then I took her to Madagascar because I wanted to go see lemurs. These are places she would never even been interested in going, but she's very grateful.
And we've gone on a bunch of safaris, Kenya and South Africa. And I never would have done those things without him. So yeah, I think it's like a mutual love of animals at this point. And now we laugh because of COVID, like, this time a year ago, easily there were 25 dogs at our house, every night. Now maybe, right now, 10. I don't know, there's like 10. And it feels empty having only 10 dogs. We're always like, oh my God, it feels so empty in here.
It feels really weird.
Yeah, so.
Wow, only 10 dogs.
Yeah, that's sort of just what we're used to at this point.
Oh, so do you guys have, so obviously like with COVID, you can't really travel right now, but do you guys have any travel plans when things start opening up, or do you have any like goals of places that you want to go or things you want to do, or like animal organizations you want to be a part of or anything?
I certainly do. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of how my adventure travel works in this house. So I come up with a list of about 3 or 4 things every year when I start to get what I call itchy, where I've been here too long, I haven't done anything to risk my life in a while, and I present like the 3 or 4 top choices to Leigh, and then it's basically like a 3 to 6 month argument over what she finds to be the most dangerous. So she has like veto power over several. And then she'll pick the least dangerous one usually, and then we bicker about that for a few months, and then finally she usually gives in and I go. So the one that I was supposed to do last year and had to cancel it at the very last minute was I've been dying for years to go swim with humpback whales in the open ocean in the South Pacific.
I remember you planning that trip.
Yeah, we fought about it for a while, and she finally gave in, and then I had to postpone it. So I'm hoping that's going to be my first one that I get to go on, hopefully maybe next summer. We'll see.
Yeah. But keep in mind, I am open-minded about these things. Like, I've gone skydiving with him times.
She's very adventurous. It's more just...
Well, it was like the time he said he was going to canoe down the Amazon. And I was like...
I do tend to pick things that are a little outrageous.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not getting a canoe on the Amazon.
Well, it was the Nile. And we fought about it for a long time. She finally just gave up and said, okay, go. And about 3 weeks before I was supposed to go, 3 Americans were on a different river, but right next to it in Africa, and one of them was eaten by a 17-foot crocodile. And so all Leigh did was print out the article, and she put it on my computer, and I got home from work, and I was like, oh! And I knew that was the end of that trip. So that was final veto power of that. I've never gotten that one back on the books, but she's really amazing about it, because I know it's stressful when I go to places where she's not able to reach me for sometimes a month at a time. I go to places that are dangerous because of wildlife. I also go to places where, a week after I left the Congo 2 years ago, some rebels kidnapped 6 rangers and killed them, and one of them was my ranger. And she didn't know I was safe. She couldn't reach me. So I do put her through kind of a living hell. So she's very understanding and great about letting me go.
These equate to spa days for me,
yes.
So it's fine.
I do return with lots of gifts. And lots of like gift certificates for spas and getaways and stuff. So I try to smooth things over. But
well, I think that's the key right there, is that you guys support each other in your goals and your dreams, and you just allow each other to be who you are and accept each other. Obviously, like Leigh, you care about where Arron goes and like how safe he is, but at the same time, you're open-minded to, okay, he feels like he needs to do this. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people I see just as an outsider make in their marriages, is they try to control their significant other sometimes, or kind of, like put the, no, you're absolutely not, and not really understanding like who they are or what they want, and that creates conflict. So it sounds like the key is really just accepting who you guys are as individuals, and it seems
it's a really good point, because I remember like when I first started at Access Hollywood, and people, this was a decade ago, and people were getting to know us, and they were so, I don't know if the right word is horrified or fascinated, that Arron was taking these trips without me. And, people were like, oh my God, are your feelings a little hurt? And I'm like, no, I'm like pushing him out the door to go, because I know that every time he goes, when he comes back for the first month, 2 months, he has such a happy buzz just from having had like an adventure experience. And he's the same way with me. I'm super, super close to my family. So I go back to Virginia a lot to visit them, and he, and I go a lot of times without him, and you're right. Like a big key to sort of, I think, staying happy is honoring each other's, wishes, like where you want to go.
Yeah.
And she's doing her own thing.
She knows that, she's seen it happen. It's been 2 years now since I've been on a big adventure trip. And part of it obviously is COVID has really knocked everyone's plans out. And she sees how I get antsy and I get a little just, you know, insular and feeling like I'm missing something. And so she knows that as soon as I'm able to travel, she's already started talking about, you got to plan something and just sort of, because if I have something planned, even if it's 6 months down the road, I'm happy. It's when it's this open-ended, like, well, I don't know, it might be a year, it might be 2 years. That's when I start to get really just uncomfortable and I get frustrated. And she's really encouraging of, you know, even when she's says no, like the Nile trip, she didn't just say, no, you can't go. She said, I really, basically, no, you can't go, but let's find something else. Like, that's just an extreme thing. Someone just died. Let's just not do that. So it's not like she says, you just can't go anywhere. She says, that one's really hard for me to accept you to go. Let's find something else. And we did, and it was fine.
Oh, that's great. So how are you doing now with COVID, like not knowing when you're going to travel again? Um, how do you cope with that? And like, what are you doing to kind of stay mentally safe?
It's a fair question. It's weird. It's definitely the first time in my adult life that I don't have anything planned, even on the horizon. But I'm kind of just looking at it as I feel incredibly blessed and fortunate that my business is still doing well enough that we're not struggling when so many are. And, you know, it's not forever. I'm still young enough that I know that I'm not missing out on things that aren't going to be there in a year, 2 years, whenever it is that I can go. And that's fine. It's weird. It's frustrating at times, but I'm kind of just staying positive about it. And
Right.
I think like all of us, like you're probably the same way. It's like relearning how to think. We've sort of just learned to think like day by day, week to week. Like it's like, okay, what are we doing to get through, this week sort of mentality versus like, where we all took for granted for years and years, like, oh, next year I'm going to go to Paris and I'm going to, go to Africa. Like we just can't think like that right now. So we've sort of just shut down and started thinking, okay, we're going to take a little road trip next weekend and, drive south of here. It's just like flipping your whole mentality. It's strange.
Yeah. You have to like retrain the way that we think for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. And then try to look at the positive. I'm used to working 6 days a week, driving 5 hours a day, sometimes from client to client. And I really didn't have any freedom to travel or see family or friends. And then I had, like this podcast I want to work on and a clothing line and all these things that I want to do. And I really didn't have the time and I'm trying to figure it out. And so, for the first couple of months of COVID, I'm like, okay, now what? And I felt like I needed to really do something. And so I started, this podcast and started the process of a clothing line and trying to get that going and trying to make best. I'm going home more to see my family, and now I have a boyfriend that's long distance, so I'm training most of my clients on Zoom and or FaceTime. So I'm trying to see it as a blessing that like I have more time now to see friends and family, to work on other projects. And I, like you said, like your business is still doing really great. My business is still doing really great. And so I just feel very fortunate that I'm not stressed, because I know a lot of people are stressed about their finances and stuff. And so, I think we just have to look at the positive.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for you. Some days when we would train with you and you would tell us how many hours you'd been in your car or driving from the Valley to Santa Monica to the South Bay, like you were going everywhere. So maybe this is like a nice pivot situation for you where you can use Zoom more and, not be in your car as much.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard. I was thinking about this yesterday. It would be really difficult for me to go back to that lifestyle. This has shown me that I don't have to kill myself all the time. I'm not as stressed. I feel like I'm happier. Driving in traffic all day takes a toll out of you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just think, life is too short. I don't think that we need to be, working as hard as we were. We need to enjoy life. So I think there are some positives that have come out of this that I want to take with me after it's over, whatever our new normal will be, to, just appreciate life more and travel. I mean, I would love to travel like all the places you guys have and go on safaris. And I want to experience all those things, but I've been working and on my own since I was 17. So this is the first time that I've had free time since I was 17 years old. So it's like it's been really cool. So yeah, I wish it was under different circumstances and people weren't, getting sick and struggling, but yeah, I think it's just like trying to figure out this new normal and see the positive in things. So
Definitely.
yeah. And for you, I was thinking my niece is 2. She loves the zoo and she hasn't been able to go. So my sister, when my niece was napping, my sister put all of her stuffed animals, her safari stuffed animals all around the room. And when she woke up, she said, "Put on your little safari outfit. We're going to go on a safari." And her face like lit up and she has a little safari hat and a little vest and she's ready to go. And my sister gave her like a piggyback ride around the house and said, "Okay, we're going to look at the elephants now." And went through all her stuffed animals.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, and so you could do that for Arron, Leigh.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. How funny would that be? Oh my God.
You could get a safari.
So funny.
Dress up all the
I was going to say, you should put your niece on a Zoom with us and we can just show her a dog zoo, like an actual live dog zoo.
Yeah. We've done that. All my family Zoom calls, like with nieces and nephews, it just turned into me turning the camera, like showing them all the crazy dogs in here. It's so funny.
That's amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I love you guys. I love you.
Thank you
so much. Oh, and I wanted to just thank you again publicly for in the beginning of quarantine when it was really scary and really bad. You guys went grocery shopping for me and dropped off a ton of food that was so helpful because I was terrified. I didn't go to a grocery store for like 2 months.
Yeah, same.
And Arron, you were grocery shopping for everybody that you wanted to be safe. And so even though you weren't like swimming with whales, you were still out there like risking
I was braving the Ralphs and Pavilions and Whole Foods of the West Side. It was very dangerous. You're absolutely right.
It was very dangerous that you did it, and I really appreciate it. And that just like speaks about who you guys are and why I love you guys so much. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
Today. And yeah, I just admire you guys a lot. So thank you.
That's very kind of you to say.
We love you, and we're so happy that you're happy right now. It's great.
Thank you so much.
And hopefully we'll see you again in this lifetime.
Yes. Let's like try to plan something at the park or something soon.
Yes, that would be great. Let's do.
All right, my dear.
All right.
Thanks, Morgan.
Bye.
Bye.